So this right here will be part of a series. It won't be all continuous week to week, but as we get closer to the release of Hand Cannon, I really want to talk about the creation of the game, its development cycle, and some of the game's lore. The idea for Hand Cannon started in 2010. I was playing Dead Space, and was inspired to make a game that took place in space, where you would fight aliens. However, I didn't want to make Dead Space. Instead, I wanted to make something different, something a bit more complex in some ways, and simpler in others. The game I wanted to make was meant to be a 2.5D platformer that took place on a base on Mars. Jack Johnson, the character you play as in Hand Cannon, receives a distress call while on a space station, and heads towards Mars to assist against the US government's wishes. When he arrives, he finds the base has been attacked by aliens, so he attempts to save any remaining crew members. I won't go too deep into the story, as I still really want to make this game one day, but the game would have been a survival horror platformer, featuring one giant map, and your weapon would have been attached to your oxygen. That way players would have to choose between fighting and breathing, making combat situations a bit more complex and less straightforward. The oxygen stations in the game would also function as save points, and if you played on hardcore mode, every oxygen station would be limited to only a few refills, meaning you could soft lock yourself if you weren't careful. I wanted to make the game in Unity at the time, but I was just starting college, still learning a ton about game development, so I put the idea on the back burner and continued making Flash games. However, I would still develop the idea and story of the game a bit more between my classes. In 2011, as I was waiting on the release of Mega Man Legends 3, we received the news from Capcom that the game would be cancelled. During this time, I was playing quite a bit of MDK 1 and 2, along with Mega Man Legends 1 and 2 on my PSP, and decided how I wanted to approach the future games in the Hand Cannon series after the first game. I wanted to make something that merged both MDK and Mega Man Legends. Both games are my favorite third-person shooters from the 5th generation, and it just felt like the perfect marriage to me. I bugged my stepdad to concept art a few characters for me, and then the plan in my head was set into motion. If Capcom wouldn't make the game that I wanted, I would figure out how to make it myself. Though again, as you know, I was still in college, still learning game development, and improving my programming skills. I knew I still couldn't make these games just yet. Fast forward to early 2018, and I find myself with the itch to finally make Hand Cannon. By this point, I had a couple of Vita homebrew games under my belt, played around building some tech demos for myself, and I just really wanted to make a go of it. The first thing I tried to do was find an artist, so I could determine the scope of the game. I knew 3D was far out of the question, so I decided to compromise with myself on a 2D game, preferably in the style of Mega Man X. I searched for a few months and couldn't find anyone with the skill set I required. I built a really small tech demo in Unity, and even tried to start to work on some art on my own. But the Jack Johnson sprite just never felt right, and I knew it would take me a lifetime trying to do the art myself. Plus, even after it was all said and done, I knew I wouldn't be happy with it. I would need to spend at least 2 years of my life just focusing on improving my art skills to get into the realm of what I wanted. This is where I decided to make a 1-bit, single-screen action puzzle game. However, I needed to find a reason for the game to exist inside the universe. This is where I decided that the game would take place years after the fight on Mars. During the start of the human resistance to the alien invasion on Earth, Jack would be resurrected by a scientist, and said scientist is testing his systems to make sure everything functions properly. This is when I started prototyping a demo on the Vita. The game I was planning was rather small, about 300 screens in total, 9 bosses, and around 16 enemies. The goal of each screen would be to grab a key and exit. The recoil shot was planned, as well as some other power-ups that you would get from the various bosses. However, the game didn't allow players to choose their own order how to tackle the levels. Everything had to be played in a specific order like a traditional platformer. Somewhere down the line, I decided I needed to tackle more consoles, so I moved the game over to Monogame. It took a few weeks for me to recode everything in C#, but soon I had a functioning version of the game. I joined the Xbox Dev program, and saw the game running on my Xbox One, which was cool. I mean, it wasn't the first time I saw my software running on a console, but it was still nice to see. I would do my best to refine the game in time for a game expo in my city, where I would demo the game, but things didn't go the way I wanted, but we'll save that story for next time. That's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your time.